At the time of being 6:35 on Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, we're going to have the school choice public hearing.
Sure. So the interdistrict school choice program has been in place in Massachusetts since 1991, allowing parents to enroll their children in districts outside their town of residence. By law, all school districts in the Commonwealth are presumed to participate in school choice unless the school committees vote to withdraw following a public hearing prior to June 1st. So this is the Northborough-Southborough public hearing. My recommendation to the committee is to withdraw from school choice for the following reasons. First, the financial disparity. The tuition reimbursement rate for school choice students is $5,000 per pupil, which is significantly lower than Northborough-Southborough Regional's FY23 per pupil expenditure of $22,775. This results in a substantial financial shortfall for each incoming school choice student. Secondly, class size and capacity. Current enrollment numbers are at or near the limits established by the school committee's class size policy. Adding additional students through school choice could negatively impact class sizes and available resources. So the next step is to hear any public comment from the community, close the public hearing, and then the school committee will take a vote later on in the agenda.
Is there any comment from the public? School choice public hearing at the time being 7:36. And we don't have a quorum yet. Any other part of the agenda we can get?
Don't require discussion.
Okay. So we will move on to school committee reports, just as long as we don't have any discussion. Sean, did you have a comment?
Sure. I was hung up when you said Sean.
Oh, Sean,
Maybe
Okay.
this report?
Mr. Bevan.
Want me to do my report, or would you?
Yeah, I think if we do have Amelia's report and your report, I think.
Do you want to share, are you able to connect, or do you want to share with me?
Here that I come connecting properly. I think in order for you to present, you have to have a hand up.
I didn't see it.
Okay, so I will give this report to you.
I can share, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's gonna let me add these since you're not considered within the district for Canva. You have to like add to the school,
Download it.
and it says like
Can you just connect?
individual.
It does have Chromecast on it.
Do you want to try to
It
cast?
says Chromecast.
Yep.
call this the 250 Award.
Sean, while we're waiting, do you have Kathleen Howland's contact?
At a concert tonight.
Yeah, she could be here by 7, she said.
Is there an HDMI plug for this?
You can't touch it because it's connecting to the.
I'll do, I can do share it on the way to send it to you.
Okay, I got what you Sean. Is that-
Sean, do you want to try calling Kathleen Fletcher? I've texted her, do you want to give her a call?
All right, I have yours, Sean.
I just sent mine, let me know if it goes through.
Stephanie, I'm sharing you the math presentation. Are you able to?
Go outside.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Thanks.
I got both from you, Sean. Amelia, I haven't gotten it from you.
Who are you expecting?
You can try sharing with Sean.
Great.
Mr. Bevan, and then.
Okay, I'll forward it.
Oh, I got it. I just got it as a PDF,
She's been
but I
working.
think we can make that work. It might not have any animation that was there.
Oh, there's no information.
Okay.
Once.
We can have Amelia.
All right, who's going first? Of all of these things I now have?
So the math part of the presentation, we're not going to do that. We'll come back to that. So
Okay.
why don't I begin my presentation by, if that's okay with everyone, I will pass it along to our wonderful school representative, Amelia Sinclair, for her last student report.
All right.
Thank you.
Can I give it a minute?
And
Give me
before
1
you
second
begin,
to
Amelia,
500 things on my desktop.
we have a
Oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Start with the good stuff.
So it gives me great pleasure to provide tokens. You might as well stand. A few small tokens of our appreciation. Amelia has done exceptional work, and she's an outstanding leader. And it's not totally uncommon that we have a student go from like wire to wire, freshman year to senior year, is just like leading and leading and leading. But it's a really exceptional kid that does that, and that was Amelia. Freshman year all the way through, it's been really wonderful. And this year alone, she just led the class at the student council through a lot of changes around Carnival. And it was really, I know we always say Carnival was wonderful this year, it was one of the best ever, and this year it was, despite a lot of shifts and changes that she was anticipating. You want to tell everybody where you're going next year?
I was speaking
Amelia, on behalf of the school collective, your presentations have been so phenomenal, even when I was watching them, even remotely. And very professional, very exciting, and brought us all up to date. So thank you very much, and congratulations to your parents also for their support. Oh, congratulations. Great job, great job. And Amelia, what is your major going to be at Ohio State?
I'm going for public policy analysis.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
That's great. You're going to do fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And you're last because I've now adopted Canva because she
Yeah.
joke about it, and it's not really a joke anymore because I only use Canva and I embed a little bit of some of the razzle dazzle that your presentations are known for, and nothing else, but there will be other impact things behind my Canva presentation. I couldn't sit here and have you just keep pouring it on that way and not have to try to get there myself. So congratulations.
Thank you. Do I just tell you when to click?
Yeah,
Okay.
even if you just look at me, I'll.
Okay, perfect. So for my May report, I kind of want to summarize some of the major events we had from April to now. We had the rock, paper, scissors tournament, and you can see Mr. Devin featured there. He played the final round. Local businesses, in collaboration with them.
change in MCAS, the one-way graduation requirement, would impact students coming to actually test. So we were all wondering if once you remove the requirement to pass MCAS as a graduation requirement, would kids actually come to test? So we're monitoring that closely. You can see from the data here, the 2024 data that we had going into when I submitted this report shows that the students were showing up at a 96 attendance rate on the days of those exams, and our ELA, A1 and A2 results are very nearly there. I think all signs indicate that students are still showing up. We do try to inform no longer graduation requirements for the exam and having classes now with students that are also could have qualified students for scholarships as well. It informs instruction. There are lots of reasons why. It says a lot about our kids that they showed up and they showed up on those days. I have a sophomore myself at my own home in a different school, and she's aware that there was no longer graduation requirement. She also attended. She was a little bit dragging her feet, which is not a surprise, and I suspect Algonquin students felt the same, but they were here. If you go to the next slide. What this slide shows is Algonquin students in the exam. Now, if students were just showing up and racing through it, like but what you'd see is that orange, that's showing that shows that students have
setting the agenda with the superintendent, which I did, and electing a chair. Chairmanship for the Northborough Southborough Regional School Committee rotates at each annual election between Northborough and Southborough. The positions of vice chair and secretary shall normally be filled by members from the same town. As chairman pro tem, I first inquire as to whether the regional school committee wishes to observe the normal rotation of the chairmanship between Northborough and Southborough. And in my tenure, there was only one time when the town did not want to do it and just gave it the chairpersonship to the same town of the previous year. So I will ask the members right now, are you all in favor of now giving the chairpersonship up to Southborough? Okay. For the nomination, any regional school committee member, either Northborough or Southborough, may nominate any eligible member for election as chair. Nominations do not require seconds, but they must be accepted by the nominee. If there is a nominee that is not present here tonight, he or she must have volunteered to the chair pro tem in advance to serve as chair, and that has happened. I received a text today, one of the Southborough members, if she is nominated to be chairperson, would be willing to fit it. She had a business meeting that was going until 8 o'clock, so we would not be able even to get her on a remote. The voting, tonight's voting will be by roll call vote, since we have Kathleen Palechko, who is on, let me say remote from us. So at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion for chair. Paul?
I'd like to nominate Jen Freeman.
Okay. And Jen Premack did reach out to me today, and if her name was nomination, she would accept the chairperson from Southborough. Are there any other nominees? So at this time, I'd like to close the nomination for chair for Southborough for the region, and this will be a roll call vote. We'll start with Sean.
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And myself is yes. So Jen Premack is the chairperson of Southborough. Since she is not here, I get the privilege of now seeing if we have a vice chair from Southborough. If we have a vice chair, that person then will do the rest of the meeting, filling in for Jen Premack. Nomination for vice chair. Matt?
I would like to nominate Paul Desmond as vice chair of the school committee for the 25-26 school year.
Paul, do you accept the nomination? Okay. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, nominations are closed. Roll call vote. So this is for Paul Desmond as vice chair. Sean?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So Paul, you are now the vice chair. And then I will hand the gavel over to you. Do you want to change positions, or are you happy there? Okay, so now, then your roll call will be to get the positions of secretary.
Okay, and I'll entertain a motion for secretary for the coming year. Nomination.
I nominate Matt.
Any further nomination?
Do you accept, Matt?
Oh, you accept. Not hearing further nominations, roll call vote. Sean?
Yes.
Chris? Yes. Matt?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And yes. Congratulations, Matt. And I too would like to thank Chris Covino for a great job as chair for the preceding year. Always appreciated his big booming voice, but that era is now over. With that, I think we're on to audience sharing portion of our agenda. Anybody have anything they'd like to share? Hearing none, we'll proceed to action on the minutes. We have 4 sets of minutes. I think I'll go through each one. If anyone has any edits they'd like to bring up, we can do that. And then we'll just bring them all. 2025. Any edits, comments? Open meeting minutes of March 19, 2025. Good. Executive session meeting minutes of March 19, 2025. And special open meeting minutes of March 25, 2025. Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the special open meeting minutes of March 13th, open meeting minutes of March 19th, special open meeting minutes of March 25th, 2025, as well as the executive session meetings of March 19th, 2025.
So move.
Second, Sean, second by Matt. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, Sean? New business, first item is reappointing district treasurer and assistant treasurer.
Sure. So it's hard to believe that Joe Michael Beck has completed his first year as the treasurer for the Northborough Southborough Regional School District. I think he's done an exceptional job, and we are very pleased with his partnership and his work. He's very thorough, a great team member, and definitely provides a level of expertise in this role. This is an annual appointment, and it is our recommendation to the school committee to appoint Mr. Michael Beck as the treasurer for the 25-26 school year.
Yes. And I'm a yes, that's unanimous.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
We are thrilled that you didn't run away after.
And we have to say for assistant.
Correct, yes.
Matt, is that right?
It was, yes, and I am, if it's the role of the committee, I am going to serve as the assistant treasurer again, 25 and 26 year.
Okay. Do I hear a motion for Matt Spencer as assistant treasurer?
So moved. I'd just like to say, Matt, thank you very much for this position, because we have been following you. And just a lot of great expertise. Thank you for giving your time and such a valuable position. Thank you.
Last week, the Senate Finance Committee released its budget for FY amount of comparison. That was in the House as well as in the Senate. We are advocating for regional transportation at 100%, universal free meals funded at areas, and there's been no shortage of flurries of emails by superintendents, MASC and MASS, and we've been working closely with our legislative delegation. We're also watching the federal budget, and specifically the federal funds that we receive to fund education. At this point in time, we do not see a reduction in funding from the federal government in terms of the special education funding and also Title I funding. We are monitoring closely some of the other entitlement grants, so Title II, which funds some of our professional development, Title III, which is our multilingual learners, and Title IV, which also supports Title II and PD. So at this point in time, it looks promising that we will not be impacted by any federal reductions, and it also looks promising at the state level in terms of the budget, the Senate and the House that move forward. I think the next step is conference committee to come to consensus, and then the governor's approval.
Questions, comments? The mathematics department presentation?
So this evening we have Beth Dorr, who is the department chair for the math department at Algonquin. And
I think you would, if you stand in your direct Stephanie to advance.
I'll be your assistant.
Regional high school for many years. Leader of the math department. Beth will be retiring at the end of this school year. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for the leadership and, most importantly, the commitment to students. You are leaving Algonquin than you found it, and your leadership will endure. Leader and
So again, my name is Beth Dorr, and I've been department chair for the last 2 years.
I know, I got a picture, I think,
he's working on Canvas. Amelia, you can help him.
15 full-time teachers right now, and I have a picture of us on Halloween. We were all prime delivery people, handing out prime numbers as students came into our classrooms, and it was really kind of cute. So 15 full-time. Then we also have a Title I tutor who's worked with us. So this woman is Lauren McGill. She's a certified teacher. She's taught at Shrewsbury High School, and she's taking a step back from full-time teaching, but she's been with us last year and this year. So this year she was with us 3 days a week, and she goes into certain classrooms where we have students that are identified as having Title I needs, and she's just an extra pair of hands to help out. She has been such a great addition, and we're hoping that she will come back next year. She is having her second baby in July, but we're hoping that by October, when she usually starts with us, that she'll be back on board. So she's been awesome. Okay.
Is this how supposed to have pictures too? No, I think it just gets.
That's some numbers. So here,
Well,
yeah, this,
your view is not the same as. If you, no, if you, I'm sorry, if you go to the slides I shared with you, that was what we would be presenting. They're the Canvas slides I shared, and then I shared a Google slide deck that is just the standalone math slides. That should be.
Still no.
I
Okay.
added the names because
Well, at
the
least
photo
it's
didn't
names,
come up.
okay.
It's improved.
But that's
so-
better.
And then if you go to the slide we were talking through, the formatting should have been retained.
okay. So these are the classes that we teach. So we have 3 different levels for all of our main classes: Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Pre-Calculus. So we offer them at 3 levels, except for Pre-Calculus. We are offering that this year and last year at the AP level. So we've been offering that for the last 2 years. And then on the next slide, a few more classes that we have. We have 4 levels of calculus that we offer, and 2 levels of statistics. So I showed you the breakdown of all the classes, and I thought you might be interested in seeing the number of sections that we're offering at those different levels. So for our fundamental level classes, we have 13 sections spread out over those courses. And we try to keep the class size there low because these tend to be the students who need the most support from us. We offer 29 college prep classes. Our average class size this year has been 17.2, which is a really nice number, smaller than it's been in the past, but I think that the students benefited from that, and I think the teachers really enjoyed that too. And then our honors classes, we offer 17 of those, and they're slightly bigger, but still, that's a pretty small number for our honors classes, running at 19.1. And then our advanced placement classes, we offer 8 of those, and the average class size is 19.5. So we have some really nice class numbers this year, which I think have benefited students a lot. I thought I'd show you just a little bit of the math MCAS scores. And so on the left is Algonquin scores, and the state scores are on the right. And as usual, we are outperforming the state in every category. And then I did want to show you this, though. So this compares what's happened over the last couple of years. And when I got the MCAS scores for 2024, and I looked at them, I was not happy to see that green column, which is meeting needs. The numbers there have gone down, and exceeding or not meeting, the orange has gone up. I'm sorry, that's partially meeting. So I was really confused about that, and kind of looked into the data to try to figure out if I could see why that was happening. And I really could not see a pattern to it. But then I went back, and if you look at 21 and 22, it almost looks to me like 23 was a little bit of an abnormality, and the 24 numbers to me look more like they did in 21 and 22. So I'm not sure why that green column of meet expectations went down while the orange of partially meeting went up. I'm hoping that's just a little bit of a blip is what we saw in 2023, but I really could not figure out why that had happened. But I thought it was important to show you a few years back.
Can you just remind me, so for this MCAS for math, at what level in high school are the students taking?
10th grade.
10th grade.
So it's on algebra and geometry. I also thought I'd share some AP scores with you. And so we have 21 students that took the BC exam, so that's 2 semesters of college calculus, getting an average score of 4.62. So the highest you can get is a 5. So it's Mr. Sean McGrath who teaches those AP calculus classes. And again, he does an exceptional job with those students. So the AB students, which is 1 semester of college calculus, had an average score of 4.37. And then AP pre-calculus, so that was offered by the College Board for the first time last year. So these are our first times that our students have ever taken those. And we were really impressed with that 4.83 that those students get on that. And then AP statistics, again, 3.28. We have a wider variety of students that take the AP statistics class. So the other classes, the calculus and pre-calculus class, have prerequisites that you have to really meet to get into it. With AP statistics, anyone who's taken Algebra 2 can get into that class. So we do end up with more variation in students. But again, it's a really great class for them to take in order to be prepared for college statistics. And so again, last year we offered AP pre-calculus for the first time. So we offered it last year, we're offering it this year. And then statistics CP, we had not offered that in the past, but we felt it was kind of a big jump for some students to take AP statistics. So we offered this. We did have a good number of students that were interested in taking it, and we're planning to offer it again next year. Now, one of the things that we have been working on for the past 2 years is a new curriculum adoption process. And so for the 23-24 school year, we had a PLC where I had 5 teachers very experienced teachers that taught a variety of classes, and we would get together once a week and look at different curriculums that were available. So we started off looking at Ed Reports, which is the national curriculum rating. They've ranked everything in terms of how usable is it for the students, how easy is it for teachers, how accessible is it. We also looked at the Massachusetts curriculum ratings. So we started out and we looked at the programs that were really highly rated, and we looked at websites, and if we liked the websites and what they had to say, we requested textbooks. And then we actually taught lessons from each of the different curriculums that we looked at, so we could really kind of get a feel for how it would work in the classroom. The 5 programs that we really took a close look at were Imagine Learning, which was illustrative mathematics, Carnegie Learning, we looked at Open Up Mathematics, which is offered by the Mathematics Vision Project. We looked at Houghton Mifflin, it's called Into AGA, and AGA stands for Algebra, Geometry, and Algebra, so it's Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. And then Reveal Mathematics, which is offered by McGraw-Hill. So the one we liked best was Reveal Mathematics, and we have been piloting that this year. So McGraw-Hill gave us access to all of their online resources for all of their courses. So we had access, not like I had asked to pilot Algebra 1, and they said, you know what, we're going to open it up and just let you look at all of it. So everyone who taught Algebra 1, we required them to strictly use the new resource, because we wanted information about how we liked it. Other teachers were told, this is here, we can show you how to use it, you can use it if you'd like, we're hoping that we're going to adopt this. And so I had all of the Algebra 1 teachers using it, and all of the pre-calc CP teachers also chose to use it. I had a handful of geometry teachers and Algebra 2 teachers who also kind of explored it, but didn't necessarily use it on a daily basis. McGraw-Hill came in and they gave us a lot of training sessions because it's an online platform, and so there's a bit of a learning curve in terms of how to access all of these amazing resources that they have. So the benefits of this is our curriculum, if we end up adopting this, the curriculum will really be aligned horizontally and vertically. So horizontally means, if you're in Algebra 1, regardless of what level you're at, you're going to be getting a similar curriculum. The difficulty of problems might be a little different, but you're going to get the same topics. And then vertically means as we go from Algebra 1 to Geometry to Algebra 2 to Pre-Calculus, the curriculum lines up, and so the level that they're offering, like in an Algebra 2 class, will be appropriate because students will have seen what they needed to see in Algebra 1. We found the new curriculum would be really accessible to students because it offers things like the ability to have text read out loud. It also has video lessons, and it has online practice where students will get some instant feedback on whether or not they're doing something correctly. We also thought it would be great for teachers because it's easily adaptable. A teacher can take and download whatever they want and they can modify it. They don't have to just use it exactly as it's written, so they can still make their professional judgments in terms of what they want to teach. So our next steps with the pilot, we're hoping that we can purchase Algebra 1, Geometry, and Pre-Calculus for the 25-26 school year. And we have the hope that we can complete the purchase and buy Algebra 2 the following year. And then just a few other things that we do in the math department that I wanted to share.
Can I ask a question? Everything you said, I guess I appreciate the process because it sounds like you evaluated the curriculum, you thought about the different tools, but since you went down the pilot phase, I guess I don't know how to fully ask the question, how you can respond to it however you like, but one, I started to wonder, what, if any, loss is there to the student experience that's going through the curriculum for the first time, and the teacher's experiencing it for the first time, so you're sacrificing something they're familiar with, and then, but we're also investing in the future, which I like, but at the same time, didn't really not evaluate another curriculum to the same depth.
No,
Yes.
probably not to the same depth. But I feel like what guided us a lot was really looking at the cure rate. What the state of Massachusetts says was, like, Reveal was actually what they rated highest across the board. And nationally too. So, you know, we only looked at programs that were very highly rated. And Reveal actually, I think, got the highest ratings on everything. So,
Okay, and
And
so
we
start from there and then
yeah,
felt out the curriculum.
Right.
Well,
And
and-
supported it.
Maybe I would add to, early in the process, or at the initial stages, Beth led the math department in a session in exploring what they would be looking for before they started to click in and look into these curriculum offerings. So they were identifying accessibility was a real key feature that they wanted. They wanted to find materials that were accessible to students of different levels, materials that were the language of which could be translated very easily, that was accessible using video and read aloud options and things like that. So that's just, accessibility was a major feature. Alignment was a major feature that they were aiming for. Adaptability was another big one. So those three big things were the priority areas, and then they started to match those priority areas to what was existing. And I think Reveal fit both what you were looking for and then was highly rated. So
And-
I think to your point, that it's almost impossible to deploy 5 different pilots simultaneously and then see, like, match apples to apples at that point. You're almost like committing to one and seeing how the pilot goes, and then confirm, and to see that it confirms what you were looking for is, I think, where we ended up.
Can I ask a question similar to yours? So I think, do you feel, or do teachers feel there was any learning loss as a result of using this set of curriculum resources, or do you feel
I would
as
say
their
no.
students performed well and as you would expect in prior years, even though it's a new resource?
So the other thing that we did with, I put all experienced teachers on that Algebra 1 team. So some of these people had not taught algebra for a while, but they were all interested in digging into the new resource. So I made sure I got buy-in that people wanted to do it. And the other thing was that we had a PLC meeting time for them, so they met twice a week in groups, so they had time carved into their schedule to sit and work together and to plan together. And so, you know, you're looking at a lesson and are we doing every single thing here? Can we eliminate this? You know, and so they were in agreement on how they were gonna proceed. Now, obviously, next year will probably look a little bit different because they've realized, oh, we probably shouldn't have done, you know, this section right then, and I think we could eliminate this. So next year will look a little bit different, but it's all the same people that are teaching it again, so we'll build on that experience.
And
But-
I'll just add that the math department, along with the school, but the math department has common assessments for every course. And so they're also very aware of, like, how does this midterm look compared to last year's midterm in Algebra 1? And everyone is taking the same midterms if you're in Algebra 1, or the same finals. So it's relatively easy in some respects to kind of track that progress of the students relative to other years in, I think, these courses in particular, like Algebra 1, because the teachers are so familiar with the content that they cover in an Algebra 1 course. So it gets like more abstract, I think, like in an English pilot in some ways, but yeah, Sean.
And I would guess that unlike elementary school where things build continually, like these are, like you go from geometry to a different course, like, so it's not I'm wondering, like, it's not predicated on the materials or curriculum used before, or the materials the year before, like the kids don't have to get used to different verbiage or whatever, because it's a different course.
It's a different course, but the curriculum definitely spirals. So topics that you see, you continue to build on, and you'll see in the next course, and it'll be a little more challenging, and we'll expand it more. But there definitely is flow between the courses.
Question, so does it offer any additional benefits in terms of identifying where kids are at with the curriculum, in terms of which ones are doing well or which ones may need help?
that kind of thing?
So they do have like online things that you can give to them to see where kids are. I'm not sure if I'm really
Like
answering.
benchmark assessments or digital, like is the progress monitoring easier through Reveal because like some of them have built-in assessment tools?
So I'm not sure if it's gonna, I don't know, I'd say it was easier through Reveal. And like when I think about like a benchmark assessment, we don't necessarily give a kid a test as they're entering into a class. If you've been successful in the last class, then, you know, you're getting moved on to the next class.
So Beth, the kind of the online platform provides students with feedback around how they're, you know, answering questions or
And if they
solving
get it
problems.
wrong, shows them
And
how to
then-
correctly
and
do
I would
it.
imagine teachers also see that feedback
Yes.
that kids are getting.
Yes.
And therefore, they're able to then support a student or see a group of students who might need to move faster, or maybe a group of students who might need more support in terms of what we're seeing in terms of the data on the platform.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, because I was thinking it should be easy to figure out like how long a kid is taking on a given assignment, right? If it's all online, so you can tell who's blowing through these things really quickly and, you know, who isn't.
Yeah, and while it is available online, every single assignment will not be an online assignment, because we still like students to use paper and pencil and to actually write the problem out. So some things will be online, not everything.
Fair enough, but you'd have a record of everything that they did online, so if one student is choosing to do a lot of extra problems that are available versus another student not availing themselves to
Yeah,
that,
the
you
teacher
will
could
at
look
least
at
see
that.
that.
Yes.
And provide more data, and at some point,
Yes.
building off it, that can help how you provide guidance to students.
Mhm. Okay, so moving on to other things.
So one question, so where do we see this in the budget? Is this one of the items that we see as like a new curriculum purchase?
Yes, it was under the textbook
That was
line
in the
item,
textbooks,
under
right?
math textbooks, yes.
So I appreciate you, because I can't recall, and maybe math is a little bit easier to explain how you went through a process of evaluating new curriculum, but I find this interesting and helpful to understand like the process that a department is going through to arrive at the curriculum that ultimately they'd like to purchase going forward, so I appreciate that.
So these are just a few pictures of things that are going on inside the math department. So we have a bunch of different extracurriculars. So this right here is a picture of the Math Honor Society. And the Math Honor Society puts on like different competitions for middle schoolers. They go to Peasley and they do a multiplication bee. So you can go to the next one. We also have a math team. We have a varsity and a junior varsity. So the varsity is coached by Gwen Fazio, the junior varsity by Eileen Falcone, and written underneath are all the competitions that they participate in. The Wokomal, the first one, is an in-person competition that's held, it's the Worcester County, so it's always somewhere in Worcester. The other ones are, like the NEML is just an online one that the teacher administers. The Massachusetts Math League, students again take a contest with their teacher, and then that's graded like at the Massachusetts level. And then the AMC, the American Math Competition, that's a nationwide exam. And if you do well on the AMC, you get chosen or invited to go to the American Invitational Math Exam. So these are all competitions that our students participate in, and they do really well, especially in that, the Worcester County one. Algonquin usually does very well in that. The junior varsity Wokomal League was hosted here at Algonquin in March. And so Eileen Falcone put this on, and students all came here, and it was great because then she didn't have to get a bus, because getting a bus has been challenging. So, and here's the Math Honor Society. So the Math Honor Society, they do peer tutoring, and they also participate in our math competitions. But they have tutors available Tuesday and Thursday mornings and afternoons. So kids can just show up at Mrs. Falcone's room and a child will work one-on-one with them. So that's been very, very nice. And this is a picture of our Math Honor Society students going to Peasley and participating in the multiplication bee. And the winners got a couple of calculators that Texas Instrument donated to us. And then here's our last slide. So passing the torch, Patrick Galvin will be our next math department chair. And Patrick has been with us for, I think, 8 years, and he taught 6 years previously. I think he's going to provide some really nice leadership.
And he's also the track and field coach.
Yes, he is. And that's a real baton.
Joan?
I have several questions. How many sections of the new courses that you have, the AP Pre-Calculus and Statistics College Prep, how many sections are being offered? And have the students had a chance to sign up for these classes yet, or are we just in the process? Where are you in that?
So the first year with AP Pre-Calculus, we had 3 sections of it. This year that we're finishing right now, there were 2 sections of it. And next year, there will be 3 sections of it again. And with the statistics, the college prep statistics, it was offered for the first time this year. Okay, and so we had 1 section this year. We'll be running 1 section next year.
Okay. And AP testing, when is that already done, or is that in the process?
It was completed last Friday. So
Last
it's
Friday.
2 weeks at the beginning of May.
Okay, question I have on the Reveal Math, what type of resources do they have? I mean, is it a text, besides the online resources?
So
Are there accelerating materials that we have to buy that, you know, like workbooks or something like that, talking to, you know, going on Matt's question? Because as we go forward with the budget, and, you know, and a question someone always asks is, do you have everything that you need? Or are there resources that you have to pick and choose because of the price and we could not put them in the budget?
So we are looking into purchasing a 6-year license. It ends up being the most cost effective. And with that, you have the option to buy hardcover books or digital books. And what we are finding is that our students really like the digital books. I prefer a hardcover textbook, as I think most of the faculty, but students really like those digital books. So we are planning on getting digital, 6-year digital license. And with that, you get everything. There is one add-on that we are not getting. So they have something that's called ALEX, which is, you know, again, more online practice. And they gave it to us, they let us use it this year. And I don't think the teachers ever really got into having their class use it very often. I did ask everyone, you need to use this at least once and see how it goes. But I think part of it too was that the ALEX program is very expensive. And I think we were kind of thinking, we're not sure that we're going to be able to get it. And we're not sure we even really want it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I was just going to add that the sort of the world of textbooks has really changed in terms of budgeting, in the sense that almost everything is now a subscription per student. And so you're talking about an annual per student cost, and then they have these supplemental add-ons. So like, you know, the core text, you have an annual license. If you get it at a 6-year, you get a discount, but you often have to pay up front, depending if you can negotiate. But then ALEX, which is the supplemental practice program, is an additional per pupil cost. So it's really changing the way we have to think about budgeting and curriculum adoption. We used to sort of cycle it, like it's math's turn, and then we won't have to think about math, and next year we can think about science. Which course do they need to do? And that, it's just changing the way we have to think about that.
Okay. And you said also that you're having the kids solve the problem on pen and paper, pencil and paper.
Pencil.
That's hard?
we find it's really beneficial for kids to do that,
I think it is
to
too, yeah.
show their work
The
step by
steps.
step, to be able to explain it to a peer. And so we find that really useful.
Okay, thank you. And last question. I love that the Math Honor Society went to Peasley. But I would hope that you go to all classes. I mean,
So
you
they
could
went
get to all schools somehow.
They went to Peasley just because it's so close and easy to get to.
It was a walking bus.
It was a walking, yes. You didn't lose it.
Another cost saving.
They also go to Melican and Trotter each year and do a middle school math competition.
No, that's wonderful.
It really
Because I
is.
think just the age groups getting together, and these kids at Peasley, at all elementary schools, they really look up to the kids, and that really gives some kids an interest that maybe a math geek, you know, that really loves it and says, wow, look at this kid who can do it in high school, that means I can do it, and gives them a lot of motivation, so.
I
thank
agree.
you. Thank you for what you have done for us, and for all these students. You've touched so many lives in, what, the 19 years that you've been here?
17.
17, oh.
Well, COVID
Oh, I-
Who's counting?
that's my-
COVID years count.
But you've had a wonderful impact on the kids, and I'm sure you're gonna miss it, and still stay in tune with education. It's great. Thank you so much. Enjoy your time, though.
Thank you.
And we are inviting Beth back to our June meeting. Not sure if she can make it, but
I'm gonna be in Florida on the 18th, so I
Oh.
well,
RSVP'd.
you
I
can
will.
always FaceTime in.
I would just, can I just, so the 6 years seems like a long time, and obviously we want to get the best, deal. Does that line up with curriculum cycles in the district? I mean, a lot
In
of times
terms
they're
of
around
curriculum
4 to
review.
5 years, so.
You're talking about in terms of curriculum review
Yeah.
processes. Yeah, we have not been on a strict certain number of
Okay.
years, so I think that will work well. And I think because we won't necessarily be able to get Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry
Right.
all at the same time,
Yep.
and the pre-calc, I think that will work out well.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
And we'll get new updates as, as the curriculum is revised.
Yeah, that is an advantage of the digital.
Oh, good.
I mean, I don't know if we've checked on that with the Reveal, but with most of them, they aren't necessarily updating the textbook as you go, but they are sending you if there's updates,
Yeah.
and then periodically they're updating, so.
That's good.
Is it safe to assume if we change our mind on that add-on that you mentioned, was it Alex?
Alex.
That, they'll take our money eventually?
Oh.
You decide not to do it.
And there's also lots of, Beth could tell you, like, there's Delta Math, there's Alex, Carnegie has their version called Mathia, like, there's a lot of these supplemental kind of practice, and they're all versions of adaptive software for individual practice. We could revisit that at any time, and there's pros and cons, and I can see why the teachers kind of, they're adjusting to something else that's new. So it's like, it makes a lot of sense, like get settled in with Reveal, but it's always an open door, yeah.
Two questions. So one, thank you for your multiple years of service. I am curious, what does the process look like to identify Patrick as the next chair?
You'll have to ask Mr. Bevan.
Sure, yeah. So it's the same process for department head leadership positions. Every 2 years, they are posted for the whole staff to potentially apply to. The reality is the people that would consider applying are in the department, but in some abstract way, somebody else could. But every 2 years, they're all posted. If most typically, people who are in the role stay in the role for some stretch of time, and then when they retire, it does become a posting for somebody else in the department to potentially apply to. And if it's a competitive application, we do a process that involves a committee that also involves a member of the association, potentially parents. Like, there's a few different ways to come at it, but in this case, Mr. Galvin was the applicant that competed for it, that we chose, the committee chose, and we're excited for him. But there's a small process for when we have a competitive opening, and the openings are open to our staff who are part of the collective bargaining agreement.
And I'll just add, because I was part of the committee that, and Beth and I were talking about this. Patrick came to the interview with he had been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of reflecting, talking to colleagues in the department, thinking about how to build off of the work that Beth has done and the ideas, and like he really came into that having prepared for that interview with a lot to bring to the table. And so it was really, I think it's an exciting passing of the baton to continue kind of, I told Beth, big shoes to fill, but I think Pat is really gonna do a great job.
I do too.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And my second question, and maybe more of a curiosity to you, is, so I'm glad when you talked about evaluating the curriculum, other than mentioning the cost of ALEKS, you went through a process of evaluating the tool and what you and the team thought was most appropriate. But how do we satisfy the bid process if we select it based on that? Are these all pre-approved by DESE, or how does that work?
They are approved by DESE, but that is actually, it's excluded from the procurement process, educational materials. And we have done a well thought out process in terms of selecting it, but we don't have to go through like a formal bid process for these materials.
Thankfully, not the lowest bidder.
Yes, yes, yes.
Push more things away.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Beth.
Okay, thank you.
Best of luck in retirement.
Have a good night, Beth.
All right, next up is the food services presentation.
Sure, so I'll turn it over to Keith, who's been leading this work, and I'll just comment that part of what initiated this study is that we did have a retirement of Diane Kofer, who was the longstanding food services manager. So we thought it was a nice opportunity to kind of reevaluate how we operate our food services program. We looked at several different options. So Keith and Becky worked on this, and I'll turn it over to them to share their study and their recommendation.
Yes, so, thank you, Greg. Becky and I are going to co-present this evening, provide a little update on the whole request for proposal process, and then it will end with a recommendation. It is a rather unique procurement process. Speaking of bids, it does require 2 steps, and we will go through that slowly because we want you to be able to understand that without any issue. So this is our plan for tonight. We're going to introduce the team members, share a little background information, review the process itself, and then end with a recommendation. So the team itself, and one comment that many of the food services management companies mentioned to us, is this is quite a comprehensive group. Typically they would see 2 or 3 people from a district as part of this evaluation team, but really wanted to make sure, and this is the first time that we embarked in this, we wanted to make sure that a lot of stakeholders had an opportunity to participate. So what you'll see on this list is our new Algonquin Food Services Manager, Gina Seso, who took over for Diane Kofer, and she's doing an excellent job. Her teammates are Brian Lawrence, who is the Food Services Manager at Milliken, and Lee Ronda, who is the Trotter Food Services Manager there. Becky and myself represented central office, as well as Mary Ellen Duggan, certainly connected the health and wellness piece in Fleshry-Hunt. Very important, and has been part of our review of food services in the last couple of years, so I really appreciate Mary Ellen's participation in this. She brought a great lens to the overall process. And last but certainly not least, Sunny Cox, who is our financial accountant, did an extraordinary job of not only unpacking the proposals themselves, but when we turned it over to the financial pieces, she did a lot of that work, and it was quite outstanding what she did to get us to a recommendation. So I want to thank her for all of that effort. So a little bit of background information, and the next slide we'll go ahead and share the timeline. We started the process back in February, actually at the February Regional School Committee. I introduced that we were going to be embarking on this, and then very quickly after that we started to engage in the process, where the request for proposals were due in March, late March, and we really dove into the evaluation process after that, leading to tonight's recommendation. So the process itself, go ahead, sir. So as we started, and this was in early March, we went out for the RFP, so it was announced publicly. It is a public bid process that we engage in. 6 companies attended a mandatory pre-bid meeting where they had the opportunity to not only tour Algonquin, but they went to 5 other schools throughout the district just to get an eye on our kitchens and also get to meet some of our staff. So they got a feel of what we're all about in our scope. As a result of that, stay on that for a second, Steph. No problem. As a result of that, we had 4 companies submit proposals on the March 25th deadline. 3 of those vendors were invited to participate in an interview, and their overall non-price proposals, I'm going to talk about that shortly, were reviewed in detail. And unfortunately, 1 vendor had to be rejected because they did not follow the proper procedures of how to submit their RFP. And let me talk about that for a quick second before we go on. So this procurement process is unique where it is 2 steps. It really actually is 3 steps. But the 2 main steps are there's a non-price proposal, which was quite comprehensive. On average, it was 300 plus pages of material that the companies presented to us, not only their philosophy, but how they're going to propose their transition. It included some references, sample menus, really got into how they operate. And that was the first step, is we really had to dive into that and do that evaluation. The second part is a price proposal. And that's where Becky's going to come in and share kind of how that unpacks. But it's not just a simple bid like we did for transportation not too long ago. It genuinely has those 2 steps. And Paul, I think when we did that process for, who did we do that for, Becky? The request for services. Remember Paul participated, the architect?
Oh, it was for the architect at the amenities building.
Right, so remember, if you recall that part, it was like we first focused on what their proposal was going to be, and then we looked at the price and made sure that it worked. So at the end of the day, go ahead, Steph. The non-price proposals, so the real beef of what they presented to us, each member of that evaluation team had to use this comparative criteria. So each individual person had to go through and evaluate those non-price proposals. The main section of that is all the ones that are prescribed by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And then we are the SFA, we added 2 additional criteria, which included an interview and presentation by the company, as well as an opportunity for us to visit a local school district that they operate in. So I have to say that was a critical part of that process, so we could really get in and learn how they actually put that proposal into action, and it was critical for what led to the recommendation. So the rule of award. Beck, do you want to take this one, or you want me to start and you can chime in? How would you like to do this?
No, you can start.
All right, I'll start. So as I said before, there are really 3 steps to the process. Step 1 was the review of the evaluation criteria, and that was the non-price proposals that were reviewed. And at the end of that evaluation process, we had to score those non-price proposals. And only those companies that were deemed to be highly advantageous were promoted to the second step. So that was a very key part, a lot of time and energy. This is not only taking what we learned on our site visit, but looking at their proposals and going through the rubric for how to determine whether or not a certain criteria was highly advantageous. Ultimately, at the end of that process, then only those companies that are highly advantageous go into the second step, which is when their price proposal is open. So that actual price proposal remains sealed until we determine that they are highly advantageous for what we're trying to achieve. And at that point, we take a look at their price proposal. And that's when Sunny and Becky really dove into the work and started reviewing what that was going to be and what the bottom line was. So really that is tied to not only guaranteed return, and Becky's going to share more about that because that's also a confusing concept, and the first time we really got into that, and then it also ties into the management fees that are also coupled with their price proposal. Next slide. So,
Can I ask one question now?
Sure.
Just because I'm not sure I see it in the materials. How many got through that non-price proposal?
1. Actually, perfect timing. Go ahead, Seth. So this is kind of how it broke down. At the very bottom, Matt, are the companies that submitted the proposals. Like I mentioned, 3 were reviewed, Aramark, SFE, and Whitson's. And then ultimately, at the end of that process, only Whitson's was determined to be highly advantageous. So only their price proposal was reviewed by way of this procurement process. Okay? Great. So, Becky, all yours.
Right, so, contained within their price proposal was a required Schedule E, which is their financial schedule that they needed to submit to us. That contained their projections on revenues and expenses for the 2025-2026 school year. It also included their estimated management fee and their estimated administrative fee. They developed those projections based on the financial data that we had provided as part of the RFP process. That included our profit and loss statements for FY24, salary data, as well as state and federal reimbursements and meal counts. So we reviewed 3 figures as part of the, not yet.
Sure, we're happy over here.
So we reviewed 3 figures as part of the proposal. The first is the guaranteed return, and you can see that Whitson's has guaranteed us a return of $29,491. This means that this is the lowest profit that the food service operation in the region will see in FY26. The figure can increase if participation increases or operational efficiencies are achieved, but it can never go any lower than the $29,491. So that's what we are guaranteed to receive as a return. So what does Whitson's get out of this? Their fees are received through a management and an administrative fee. And these fees can either be a flat rate or it can be a fixed fee multiplied by the projected student annualized meals. Whitson's fee structure actually was the latter, where they looked at the projected student annualized meals. So for the management fee, they are using an amount of 11.6 cents times the annualized student meals. And then for the administrative fee, they are using 5 cents times the annualized student meals. They are projecting 188,110 meals for the FY26 school year. So that calculation came out to a management fee of $21,821 and an administrative fee of $9,406. So the incentive for them will be to increase participation, because as the number of meals served increases, their total fee will increase as well. And on the flip side, so will our guaranteed return. That will also increase.
Wait a minute, so, but as of the estimated meals you just talked about, all they get is, was it 31,000
So
or so?
keep in mind that this is part of 3 districts, so this is just the regional portion of this. So they are also going to have these same fees in Northborough and also in Southborough.
So the total is 100,000 or so?
Yes, yeah. Now we can go to the next slide. So the projected revenues in the proposal also include our federal and our state reimbursements that the district will continue to receive, as well as estimated revenues from a la carte sales and also adult sales and potentially even catering that can be done within the building. The projected expenses in the proposal include estimated food costs, labor. We will continue to retain the labor. Our employees will continue to remain our employees. However, there are other expenses that are also covered. A food service director, and again, that is a shared cost between the 3 districts, where that person will be working between the region, Northborough and Southborough. They've also estimated supplies, and that's everyday supplies that they may use, such as cleaning supplies, utensils, tools, and office supplies. They are also looking at equipment repairs and maintenance. Nothing specific has been identified. However, these are estimates looking at what some of our prior year's expenditures have been. And then also insurance. So as part of their contract, Whitson's must maintain insurance coverage for general liability, automobile liability, workers' compensation, and employer liability. So this coverage will actually protect the district from any claims related to the food service operation. And then lastly, we will also have access to a dietitian, and this is something that we currently do not have. So this person will assist in the menu development. They will ensure that we are compliant with the USDA dietary standards, and they are available to come on site and assist in any staff professional development on nutrition education as well as allergy protocols.
So, pending school committee approval, there is a transition process that Whitson will undertake to get us to the start of the school year, and they are ready to go if we do decide to move forward. So these are some of the steps that's going to happen. We will have a contract finalization, which is something that's already been drafted. We will do that in partnership with DESE to make sure that we followed all the procedures that they have outlined. We will then select the district's management team and school-based staff to help support that, which has already been underway. I will be a key part of that process. And then developing menus. I think one thing that we're going to make sure is done in this case is that there's a lot of good things happening in our schools. One of the reasons, and as Greg had shared earlier, bringing a continuity to our 10 schools is going to be very important. Adding that leadership element that has really not been there for all 10 schools will be added. And just the resources that a firm like Whitson's can bring to the table is really where we're going to see that overall improvement to the student experience. So that's going to be really part of the transition. They need to learn how we operate, what are the great things that are happening, what are the good things that are happening, and what are the challenges that we want to overcome. Some of those I am predicting are going to be ones that we can really work on quickly and improve. We did add the dietitian and access to a dietitian throughout. This came through a food services review that we did for the K-8 schools over the last year. We wanted to make sure to have that contact and make sure that that was a part of how our menu development was occurring, and that's something that would be adding that we don't presently have. So what complements this as well is that Whitson's also has the ability to bring in other staff to help support our work. They're not necessarily people that would be on our staff, but they just have resources to bring in executive chefs that can do training. There's a lot of those types of things that have been celebrated in the other districts that we've discussed. And obviously the publications and things like that. That came from the food services review, is that we don't really do a good job of marketing all the good things that are happening in the school. So this is something that Whitson has built in because it's one of their benefits. If they are able to increase participation, if they're able to share the good things that they're able to do, that's only going to generate more interest and more participation overall. So we did receive approvals from the Northborough School Committee on May 7th and the Southborough School Committee on May 14th. No pressure, you're last but not least. With your support this evening, we would be able to move forward with a contract for 1 year. So I think it's also important that that's part of what we describe, is that the way that DESE has this prescribed, unlike transportation where we went into a 3-year contract, this is a 1-year contract with the opportunity to renew for 4 additional years. And it would be a renegotiation at the conclusion of every year to do that and to move it forward. So based on all that we've shared, and the recommendation for the school committee is to approve moving forward with Whitson's as the food services management company for a 1-year contract that allows for 4 additional extensions based upon the district's satisfaction for ongoing operations. And this is going to be a key part. We are going to be reviewing this quite frequently, even in as early as the next month as this transition process begins. We're really going to dive into it, make sure it is a good match for our district. And the key to that is making sure that they bring on a director that will deliver and meet our expectations. So that is our recommendation this evening.
Keith, can I just highlight
You
one
can.
thing that you said that I think is important? That we'll be retaining our current
Yes.
food services staff, that they will be, continue to be employees of the Northborough Southborough Regional School District. And that is intentional. After a year, we experience this, if this is the will of the committee, and it doesn't work out, we still retain the people who work on our kitchens, which is essential.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of changes can students like expect to see like in terms of menu items? Like, is the menu gonna get more broader? Will this like kind of shorten it?
No, it actually, it's going to be, it's definitely going to be more broader. I think what they're going to be able to do is bring in a wide variety of resources, and their purchasing power is far greater than ours. So we are going to see that type. Now, are we going to see that on day one? Maybe not, but I think over time, as they get to know, and they're going to be doing a lot of student surveys and really diving into that, you're going to see the diversity grow pretty quickly.
Yeah, if I can just add to
Please.
that, I think in reviewing the 3 proposals, their menuing, I think, was more diverse.
I would agree.
They offer, once a week, they offer like a meatless day. And then they also, I know when they visited one of the schools, they had a smoothie machine too, so they offered smoothies. So, yeah, I think that there, yeah, there are some, you know, I think we're excited at the prospects that we saw. So.
We are.
I'm a little jealous. That's something.
Sorry. But Ohio State has the same thing, so don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Yeah, you'll be
I
fine.
hope orange chicken comes back.
It may.
Normally we get back, but
Another aspect, Amelia, is they do have a marketing, so there's a lot more marketing materials around the food they're going to serve. And I think student voice is really important. So they have taste tests, they have trials, there's all sorts of ways they really make sure that their clients, the students who are eating the food, are being served food that they enjoy and like.
sounds great.
I have 3 questions. You talked a little bit about catering. So that was something I didn't hear in Northborough K-8. What is the catering? Does that mean that if there is an organization that's having festival or we're having something in the evening, that we could have them cater something for us or for a school organization, student organization?
Yes, we could. So I think what they're going to have is a much more prescribed process for that. So they will have a menu that would be available for different groups to engage with them on, and then obviously that would come with a fee to make sure that we were doing that the right way. But what I've seen and what I've learned from the other districts that do it, yeah, they do want to make sure that's part of their marketing. They're reaching out to groups that don't necessarily participate in the day-to-day, so that's part of the work that they're going to do. So a catering menu is something that they're going to offer.
Okay, and as I understand it, at the high school, which is different than the K-8, they have food stations, correct?
Yeah, we have like all sorts of different options. Like there's a deli station, there's pizza, there's salads, and then there's like the main lunch. So there's like 2 different stations where students can go to get the main lunch.
Okay.
But there's all sorts of different options.
So are they going to keep that same thing, and would they be expanding stations?
Well, that's going to be part of what they evaluate. I think there is room for growth in that area here in the options. So I think it also has to do also with how the kitchens are set up. Like there's a lot of different things that's going to go into that. But I see them taking advantage of the cafe, which we have here, when we're able to have it properly staffed. So there's going to be a lot of those types of opportunities. I can see them doing a lot of exploring with the students, probably greater than the other schools for Algonquin, to make sure they're really meeting that student, those student requests. So I can see it expanding.
Okay, how about in the morning? Do they have a grab and go for the students? Will that still be continued?
Yes, and they're actually gonna, that was one of the focuses, and Becky, I don't know if you would agree, Whitson's really honed in that our participation in the breakfast program, and that is in all 10 schools, is lower than where it should be. So they're gonna really have that be a concentration and a focus to make sure that they don't only have a grab and go option, but they have a hot option every morning, which doesn't always exist for a lot of schools. So they're gonna make sure to capitalize that, especially here at Algonquin.
Will they have, when you talked about the dietitian, will that person be making sure that if we have a type 1 diabetic student, that, or maybe some people or athletes just want low sugar or low salt options, would that be something that they could do through the dietitian and ask for?
Well, I think that the dietitian's going to be able to participate when we're developing the menus, making sure that they have all that information in line. But a lot of people are responsible for that. The director will be, our cafeteria managers at all the schools, and even the workers themselves are all aware of those types of allergies. I think we do a lot of individualization now, and that's only going to continue. And they will be part of that, so they can really expand the options. One thing that we do now is that our cafeteria managers will reach out to the families and really talk about the things that they're going to want to see on their menu. And that's only going to get expanded with a higher level of expertise.
And then my last question is, I know at the K-8 you were saying that the faculty participation right now is kind of low.
Very low.
Very low. I don't remember that. How is it here at the high school?
A little higher, but not much more.
So my question was, after the meeting, which I thought about, do they offer the teachers, like if they come first thing in the morning, that they could order a special salad? Like if they wanted a tossed salad, but they want a scoop of tuna salad on it?
Yeah. That is something that we've been trying a couple of times, even since I was principal at Trotter. Every so often we go through a nice cycle of having that offer, and then it would die out because participation would be low. I think with the continuity of this, and hopefully with the support of the committee, bringing on someone, we're going to be able to expand that and make that a consistent offering for the teachers. And already we've seen some of that at the K-8s in the last month or two. We've been able to capitalize that, and teachers have been given a thumbs up. So my hope is that they'll continue to participate in that type of offering.
Because I was thinking that might be one, I'm sorry.
No, I think we see more adult participation here, though, definitely.
Oh yeah, more here than the other
The a la
schools.
carte.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the a la carte.
yeah,
The cookies are fantastic
Yep,
here, so
yep.
those are often.
Well, I know the salads where I taught, that was always a great big thing. Go right to the cafeteria in the morning, put your order in for a salad,
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Paul.
Ron, did you have something?
I think with the dietitian and the menus are very accessible for parents, I believe. And so all of the sugar counts or allergy information is very detailed and easy for nurses or diabetics or whoever to get to, much more than a non like administered program.
And I would add, we do have Mosaic, which is our, our online that parents can go on to. And I think with Whitson's having their menuing already done with all of the nutritional information, it's going to be even easier to upload that into Mosaic so that parents can access it as well.
I would agree.
I just know nurses who used to have to go to the kitchen every morning to get a sugar count.
Read labels.
And
Read labels.
Literally.
Yeah.
And now it's all accessible on the web, and it matches whatever, so that it can save a lot of time.
I think overall, and I don't want to speak for Mary Ellen, she did put them through the ringer, I'll be honest. And it was great because all the questions that she had, some of the things that she thinks are areas for us to improve upon, they were meeting that. In particular, labeling food.
Yes.
Came up, and that was something that I can say the other companies did not support, and they didn't even have a method for doing that. So they could identify a sandwich as having wheat or soy or whatever the case may be, so that students can make good choices independently and not have it just served to them. So yes, if a student needs that level of service, we'll provide, but it's also nice to give them the independence so they can read a label and understand it. Those are things that they do out normally. So that would be an expectation we would have, is labeling of the food.
I want to make sure I'm understanding this guaranteed return. Is that a profit, basically?
Yes.
And how does our current food service operate? I never thought of it as for-profit.
She's ready for that question.
I am ready for that. So what I can tell you in FY '24, our profit was about $140,000. So this is taking into consideration, obviously, the management and the administrative fee. So we think that we definitely have more room on that return. I don't think that we're going to see the 29. I think it will be more than that. However, that does take into consideration all of the expenses that we would be incurring. The nice thing with this is they're going to send us a monthly invoice. They're gonna take care of all the procurement, they're gonna pay all of the bills in terms of the purchasing of materials. We will be continuing to pay the payroll, but it's really, they're gonna be handling all of that, those functions, those day-to-day functions that we're currently handling in-house, so.
Is that returned after what we pay then?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that includes that, yeah.
And just an important note that in terms of what we can maintain in our revolving account for funds is 3 months worth of expenses. So, you know, that is something that, you know, with the universal free meals, we have seen a greater profit. And I think I'm not concerned in terms of, you know, losing money. In fact, it is a self-operating operation, so self-funding operation. It sits outside of our operational budget. If there is a deficit in expenses currently, that would come out of our operational. So this reduces our risk to some degree in changing economic conditions.
Anything else?
Maybe one question, and I appreciate yours, because I was gonna ask something similar. When you mentioned it's a 1-year contract with, the option to extend for 4 years, but is that, but you also made it sound like there's a renegotiation every year, so
Yes.
is it, it's not really an option?
Yes. Yes, so we would, and I think the valuable thing for next year will be they'll have a year under their, we'll both have a year under our belts, and so we'll have a better sense of like what the participation is and how things are coming out. But yes, we would renegotiate that fee each year. And if
Including
it's
the
not-
guaranteed return.
Yeah, yes, yeah. And so if it's not favorable, it is something that we could make the decision that, okay, we're not going to continue to pursue this option.
And it's really about economies of scale for these types of food services companies. They're purchasing not just for us, but for many districts. So the volume of purchasing the food that they can access is far greater. So they're really maximizing that economy to make a profit.
Do they have to accept the option, or is it mutual? Like, so they don't, like, we can exercise, and do they have to perform on it, or, like, could they walk? Like, I'm just trying to understand.
They could walk.
Do we
but
really
that-
have a 4-year option?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
They could. I think they've done enough. I mean, my understanding is that they've done enough research on us as much as we've done on them to understand like how we operate. Part of the RFP that we put out is a lot of information about our operation. So they did that, and they've also obviously they've been on site, which did a little. But in order for them to get to the point of even offering to engage in this, they've done a pretty significant review to know what they're going to get into. I think that first year, like Becky said, is going to be critical. You know, they're going to learn just as much about us as we're going to learn about them, and see where we land. If it is not where we want to be, we have 2 options. We can go back to a self-operating program, which is what we currently do now, or we can go out for another RFP cycle, which would be what we just endured over the last month. And then potentially another company.
So I think each year, the Whitson's will assume the risk.
Yeah.
So if there is a $50,000 deficit in food service expenses after 25, 26, we still will get the $30,000, and they will lose that amount. And then that's when I think the conversation and negotiation will happen. I'm confident that their financial models are pretty tight and pretty accurate. They would not be entering into this if they thought they were going to lose money.
Right.
But again, a lot can happen in a year in terms of market conditions. We don't assume any of that risk. Whitson does within that year experience.
And I look at it similar to like our bus contract, where we just entered into a 3-year agreement with 2 option years. where really we had the option years, for those last 2 years. So I would say that really we're in the driver's seat on this, but I think, there is language in the contract that allows them, with so many days' notice, for them to notify us of of their decision not to renew.
So it seems like probably the biggest benefit is it provides us with a contract that we can potentially use if mutually agreeable for 5 years without having to go back through a bid process.
Correct.
And they have an incentive, as Keith said, to make this work,
Yeah, okay.
to provide a product that kids want, that they're going to buy. So
Yeah.
they are assuming a lot of the work to make this a good partnership.
Got it. Thank you.
The only other thing I would comment on is training for our food services staff. So the professional development, they are chefs and cooks working in our kitchens, and they'll have access to professional development that we've not been able to provide around, developing menus and learning how to create different food options and ingredients. So that's something we're very excited about.
Sorry, I just can't help myself. One other question. What risk, if any, is there to us if so it's nice that we're retaining our staff on the possibility that we make a different decision next year, but what if, for whatever reason, we lose the continuity of our staff and we don't have them to provide to the kitchen services, and do they then have to step in to provide, and is there some type of cost to us that we can't control if they have to backfill the resources necessary to provide the food service?
So part of this agreement is that they're actually going to help us with the recruitment of staff. And so they are going to be a key player in this, in making sure that we are fully staffed and that we also have backup substitutes as well in the district. So that is part of their contract with us.
So
Go ahead, Greg.
one of the challenges we have faced is, making sure we hire and retain folks who are working our food services, kitchens. It is a volatile kind of sector of the work that we do. We've had some more stability at the high school.
Yes,
than
correct.
Other, but it is something that we are at risk with turnover, and this is another protection for us in terms of this is a sector that they operate in. They have a lot of connections. They have a lot of networking. They have far more resources to recruit and hire people that we just don't have the expertise and ability to market and network with.
Anyone else? So I guess we need a motion to approve contract for Whitson's as our food services management company for the 25-26 school year.
So moved.
Moved by Chris,
Second.
second by Sean. I guess, I don't think we need further discussion. Roll call vote, Sean?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
I just want to thank Keith and Becky and the team for moving this process forward. They gave it a lot of thought and a lot of hard work and care in making this selection, so I just want to thank them for their efforts.
And one thing I want to reiterate is that this is genuinely going to be a partnership. There are outstanding things that are happening in our 10 schools with food services. The hope is that this is a genuine complement to that, real opportunity for improvement. We've identified those areas, and I think even just having a director with that vision is going to be extremely helpful. That's something that we have not had for a very long time in the district, so I'm really excited about this opportunity, and I appreciate the support.
Yeah, as Joan alluded to with the catering question, I mean, I see a ton of opportunity there.
No doubt.
I mean, all
Yeah.
these sports teams have these pasta nights and stuff like that, so. Go ahead, Matt.
I'm gonna take the opportunity to say that this is another place where a marketing resource of some kind would be helpful to the school district, because in the 2 minutes sitting here, I look at their website, Whitson's does seem to be an entity that prides itself on providing good food offerings to the community or its customers and, fresh and healthy. I think directionally where we'd want to go, so I think, this is a good thing to promote as something that, and actually complimenting you and the team for organizing this, and feels like we're going in the right direction, so just.
And anecdotally, we did do a deep reference check. We went in and talked to a lot of districts, and those that have recently made that switch have made that exact statement, have said that that's been game changing for them, and their participation has practically immediately improved, which is great to see.
Good.
John?
All right, that brings us to the student handbook update and approval.
Sure, so I'm going to be delivering a quick update on behalf of Andy McGowan, who's our assistant principal and who manages the updates to the handbook every year, and he does it really wonderfully. There are no major shifts to the handbook. There are forthcoming changes to Title IX, Civil Rights and Bullying, that simply will be reflections of district policies, so that's not any new majorly substantive changes that aren't district policies. There's similarly a policy on animals on school property. So those are ones that are not all that exciting to report on because they are reflected in district policies. The other two that I just wanted to make mention of is that the new competency determination that we designed this year and was accepted by the school committee will be reflected in the handbook going into next year, of course. And then there was a small change that I worked to design and to get voted on at my school council, strengthening the language on how we can search the personal property of a student. The previous language basically allowed a student to refuse a search, and that language was nominally strengthened to indicate that a student who refuses a search may be charged with the alleged violation by refusing. So that was a weakness in our handbook that I had noticed. It has not been challenged, but I prefer to fix that before it gets challenged. There are more students than adults at this point on our school council, which has been a change I've implemented, and the students helped me to refine that language, and we're happy with what came out of it. And those are the major pieces.
Okay. Any questions, comments? So I guess we need a vote to approve the 25-26 student handbook as updated.
I'll move to accept the handbook as updated.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Sean, seconded by Joan. Roll call vote. Sean?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
I'm a yes. That passes unanimously. We have the 25-26 program of studies approval.
So you have a link in your packet, the digital link, if you were to click on it, or if you type in the tiny URL, will bring you to our program of studies. I think if you were to match our program of studies to other schools in our area or other schools around the state that are similar in composition to our own, I think what would stand out to you is that our program of studies has a really wide and deep array of electives offerings. So most schools have, similar to us, a variety of coursework that provides a foundational experience for students to leave with a mastery of all the key elements that they need to. What I think differentiates our school is that we have a really robust electives offering, and I encourage you to, as your time permits, to click through and see what those look like. Each year we are adding each year we add a few new courses. This year one course was added to the Vergama studies, and then whether or not it runs is really determined by whether or not students enroll in it. That course is Unified Wellness. So Unified is an extracurricular program where students with disabilities participate equally with each other. You're probably familiar with Unified Athletics. We have a Unified Arts class in our building, and this year, for the first time, we are looking to offer a unified PE course where students with and without disabilities are enrolled
in a PE course. Yet to be seen whether or not that will enroll. But that's just a reflection of yet another elective offering that reflects our core values of inclusivity specifically, which is something we increasingly are trying to promote, and our kids do such a wonderful job of embracing. So I invite you to, if you have not already, check out our program of studies. It's a real demonstration of our commitment to excellence with our students and our commitment to choice in particular.
Any comments on that? I will say I'm continued to be impressed with our program of studies. I have been ever since my kids were in 8th grade and I first saw it. And it just, you know, it continues to impress me, astound me really. I mean, you could put it up against probably some small colleges.
Yeah, it's a real source of pride for us, I think.
All right, I think we need to vote this as well.
Yes.
So, I'll take a motion to approve the 2025-26 program of studies.
So moved.
Moved by Matt,
Second.
second by Joan. Roll call vote, Sean,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Joan,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. That is unanimous. That brings us to the school choice vote.
Yes, so my recommendation to the committee is to withdraw from school choice for the 25-26 academic year.
I move to withdraw from school choice for the 25-26 academic school year.
Second.
Moved by Sean, seconded by Joan. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Sean,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Joan,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. That is approved unanimously. And now we have town meeting recap.
Yes, I will not spend too much time on this. The Northborough town meeting was 4 evenings, so it was a long event, but I'm pleased to share that the citizens did approve the regional budget. There were very few questions, and they also approved the assessment, which included the repair for the roof. So 4 nights. Pleased to share that the outcome was positive.
Well, and can I say, there were numerous comments about the transparency and process that Superintendent Martineau and Becky put forward in the budget process, and appreciation for actually maybe a model in the town how that works. So there was a lot of positive comments from the community.
It's good to hear.
16 hours.
Thank you.
Yeah. And just thank Becky for her, this has been a really challenging financial cycle, and it feels like every time we thought we were at a good point, we received new information. So it's been extraordinarily challenging, and Becky has, as we would expect, done an amazing job, and we're fortunate to have Becky's leadership. And I don't think we say it enough, so I'll take this opportunity to say it.
Thanks.
Southborough was.
Southborough
Shorter.
town meeting was
Yeah, very
there for me. So the consent agenda, the Southborough regional budget was on the consent agenda, so it was not held. So it was a very brief approval process, and we're very grateful to the town of Southborough as well for its support of education in the region.
Here, here. All right, approval of grants and donations. We have lots.
2 months worth.
I don't know if anyone wants to speak to these.
Sean, you want to?
Sure. The way these are enumerated, it really does a nice job of listing exactly out, but I will read them out. We have a request for the approval of a grant from State Street Foundation in the amount of $10,000 for a new pottery kiln and updated equipment for graphic arts classes. That comes by way of John Wysocki's hard work. that offer. We have, do you want me to read them all and then wait for an approval at the end?
Yeah, why don't you?
Why don't we, I think we're gonna do one vote to approve them all,
Okay.
so.
I can speak to we do have 2 kilns in the building, and really both probably need to be replaced at some point, and this would accelerate the ability to have a new kiln very quickly, and also some other updated arts equipment. It would be much appreciated. We're seeking the approval of a donation from the Northborough Junior Women's Club for expenses related to Mental Health Week. That was through a program in the library here. Approval of a donation of 5 $10 gift cards to Arrow and 1 $10 gift card to Dunkin' Donuts from the Northborough Junior Women's Club. Use for private prizes for reading programs. That's also in the library. Approval of donations from Central One Credit Union for $100, Wegmans for $1,000, and Aurora Exterior Painting for $500 to the Algonquin Regional High School Student Council. If I'm not mistaken, that money was used to offset the cost of the carnival.
That was for Winter Ball.
Winter Ball, I'm sorry. The approval of donation from the Northborough Rotary Club for 12 plant pots valued at $200. They're actually right behind us over here if you care to see them. Approval of donation from Wegmans in the amount of $200 in support of the Culture and Music Festival and International Night. And the approval of $50 gift card donation from Hannaford, food aid donation from Shawarma Plates from Fatouche Grill and Bakery, and 2 sheet pizzas from Begnami Home Improvements, and to support International Night. We're very lucky for the support of our many community partners.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the grants and donations as described here in the agenda document.
Perfect.
Second?
Moved by Matt, seconded by Sean. Any discussion? I think the $10,000 one deserves some
Yeah.
special recognition.
Yeah, we'll send
Yeah.
a letter on the district's behalf and the school committee's behalf.
Yes.
Okay.
And Wegmans continues for, I mean, every
Yeah.
month.
Yeah, Wegmans is wonderful. Arrow's great. We just get very lucky.
Yeah.
We're lucky to have wonderful partners.
Like every month, yeah.
And John did ask that the kiln be named after him.
There's a policy for that.
There's a policy. Let's get that policy.
All right. Roll call vote. Sean?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So unanimously approved.
Thank you.
And that brings us back to the superintendent's report. I think we've heard the student rep report and at least some of the principal's report.
That was my entire report.
That was your entire report,
Yep.
all right. We weren't able to take any questions because we weren't yet in session, so I don't know if anyone has any questions at this point on either of those. Hearing none, we'll move on to enrollments.
So enrollments, there are no surprises with enrollments, so it's as projected, and we're keeping a close eye out, specifically around 9th grade, so how many 8th graders from Northborough and Southborough matriculate to Algonquin. So we are keeping an eye on that number, but no surprises. And then I'll turn it over to Becky for the financial reports.
So included in your packet are actually 2 monthly general fund reports, since we did miss last month. So one is as of March 31st, 2025, and then the second is as of April 30th. You can see that the report as of March 31st, we had 0.98% remaining on the bottom line, which was a decrease of about $100,000 from the previous month. However, in April, we now have 1.23% or $342,000 remaining, which was a slight increase of $68,000. I would say the majority of that is due to the fact that we did have money in our regional transportation fund. We had $155,000 that the committee had voted to move into that fund at the end of last year to be used towards transportation in this year's budget. So we did apply those funds, so that was able to offset our operational budget for FY25. There are 5 function codes that are now reported as overexpended. They are professional development, leadership, in the amount of $430.64. Supervision, special education, $247.24. Student activities, $13,209.28. Electricity, which is $24,744.34, and then maintenance of buildings, which is $16,235.06. Yeah, I dropped my pen on the electricity thing too, so. So the electricity, two of the codes that I just want to bring to the committee's attention, the electricity and the heating. We did do an analysis actually back in March looking at our rates. You've heard a lot, I'm sure, on the news about the increase in some of the supply costs associated with those programs, and we are seeing that here at the district. So that is why we have made some adjustments to those two line items. And then just some of the codes, the other codes that we're really watching are substitute long-term. We have seen, this is actually the first year that we're tracking this in this manner. We always had it in our teacher salary line item when somebody was out on an extended leave, and now we have it reporting as a separate function code. So it's really helping to inform us better for our budgeting process. And we have seen an increase, I think, in the number of long-term absences this year. So that is one line item that we're watching. Also, our custodial salaries, if you remember, we had to approve a new outside custodial contract at the beginning of the year because our previous vendor had gone out of business. So that is as a result of that. And then, as always, as I mentioned, each month our special education transportation costs, we are continuing to watch those and working closely with our counterparts at Assabet Valley Collaborative on our contract with Vanpool through the collaborative. So we do have that $200,000 encumbrance that we are holding due to that new contract and some of the issues that we're experiencing with that.
Okay. Looks like we can have one motion to approve both of these reports.
I make a motion to accept the fiscal year 25 monthly general fund reports as of March 31st, 2025 and April 30th, 2025 until audited, and vote to approve the overexpended function codes as listed above, as outlined in detail with Becky with rationale for fiscal year 2025.
Second.
All right, moved by Matt, seconded by Joan. Any questions, discussion? All right, roll call vote. Sean?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. It's unanimously approved. I think that just leaves statement of revenue, is that right?
Yes. So the same idea where you have both the April and the March reports in your packet. In both of those months, as we do each month, we continue to receive our Chapter 70 charter school state payments, and we are still continuing to see a healthy investment income. We also have started to collect our spring athletic fees. I think the largest amount you'll see in March, but we did see some additional fees come in April. Also in March, we received our third payment of the special education circuit breaker reimbursement that we received from the state on a quarterly basis. And then in April, we received our quarterly Medicaid reimbursement for Medicaid covered direct services that are provided within our district. So really those are the highlights. They've been fairly quiet months, which I guess is a good thing. And we will receive our last assessment payment from the two towns as of June 1st. So I think really we're still continuing to trend at about a 75% rate for our revenues, but once we receive that last assessment payment, that's when you're going to see that report get closer to 100% for the year.
Okay.
I would make a motion to accept the revenue reports as presented for the periods of March 31st, 2025 and April 30th, 2025 until audited.
Second.
Moved by Matt, seconded by Joan. Any discussion? Roll call. Sean?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Kathleen? Kathleen?
Yes?
Okay, and I'm a yes, that's unanimous. And it looks like we have one transfer to approve, is that right?
So we did provide the committee with an explanation of the rationale behind the request for this transfer. We were previously recipients of a special education improvement grant, and that was from fiscal year 2012 to fiscal year 2021. Each year we would receive those funds. During that time period, we would report to the state, and then we would be able to draw down funds from the state. Prior to fiscal year 2025, there was always a remaining balance of about $1,944.98. But because of the recurring nature of this grant, and our accounting system was not picking up that balance, what we suspect happened was that the expenditure was made, it was reported to the state, however, the funds were taken out of our operational budget versus out of the grant in our accounting system. So that's why we feel that these funds are now available to us. We have consulted with our auditor, and he has suggested that since these are older funds, they're really immaterial in nature, that the school committee could vote to approve to transfer them from this grant fund balance and accept it as miscellaneous revenue for the year.
Joe?
I have a question. Those two areas that you talk about, the special education improvement grant going into miscellaneous income, is there a number on this sheet that goes into, that it matches?
No,
or
it would actually be on the revenue report. You'll see it come in as a miscellaneous revenue on that last report that it's not part of the operational budget.
It isn't?
No.
Okay, so it comes in as the,
So,
oh, in that,
On this.
yes, yeah,
oh,
One of the miscellaneous right here.
one there, okay.
that's
All right.
where, so if you vote to approve it next month, you'll see that as an addition. on
Okay,
that.
thank you for the clarification.
With particular emphasis to the amount of $1,944.98 being viewed as immaterial, both in my mind and in the mind of the auditor's recommendation, I would make a motion to approve the transfer of this stale dated fund balance from the Special Education Program Improvement Grant into the miscellaneous income.
Second.
Moved by Matt, seconded by Joe. Any question, discussion? Roll call. Sean?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes?
And I'm a yes, that's approved unanimously.
And forgiving my abrupt stop here, so I do have a commitment I need to get to. Do we have any more business that we need to vote on this evening?
I don't think there's anything else to vote on.
So if it's okay with the committee, I would choose to depart at this time.
Okay.
Breaking the quorum, I apologize.
Thank you for that excellent motion that you just did.
Thank you all for your.
Thank you.
All right, old business, looks like none at this time. Same with policy development. Public comment. Anyone have any comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to distribution of the personnel report.
So the personnel report is in your packet, and just want to compliment Principal Bevan. He is well ahead of schedule in terms of hiring folks. Dan Forehand, our current computer science teacher, is retiring at the end of this year. Leave behind a wonderful program, a very difficult position to fill, and Sean was successful in hiring an outstanding candidate to continue the great work. So thank you, Sean, and that is reflected on the report.
Very good. Good to hear. Communications. There's something in the packet.
Yes, so Sean and I had the pleasure of attending the Worcester County Superintendent's Association Annual Scholars Luncheon. So 2 Algonquin students were recognized, and I did provide that recognition in the school committee's packet.
Okay. bills and payrolls is online. Agenda items for next month. We have the retiree recognition, health and fitness department presentation, and I guess a new student rep to the school committee. Anything else? Jen Tremack now. I think that's it. Yes. I will entertain motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sean, seconded by Chris. Roll call, Sean.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Joan.
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Yes. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
With Junior Guards USA. The Tybee Council members approved a agreement with the organisation to create a programme on the beach that trains youth to become future lifeguards. In Hawaii, Honolulu, Queen's Medical Center has received a $1.6 million donation from the Helmsley Charitable